So today we are going to talk about organization strategy, and then I'm going to end with just a quick idea on a process that you can build in TouchStone that's related to the organization strategy. So we're on the dashboard screen right now, and this is what you'll see when you first log into TouchStone. To get to your organization chart, you go to the left-hand navigation right here, and you just click this button called Organization Chart. If you have not built your organization chart yet, I'd recommend that you do this right away. It's a pretty easy thing to do, and it has a huge benefit. So in this session, I'm going to talk about technically how you use the org chart tool and some of the functionality that you use, or all of the functionality. That's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy to learn how to use the chart itself. But then I'm going to talk also a lot about how to build a good organization chart. So what makes up what we call an organizational strategy. How to design your organization, and what are some of the basic principles of good organizational design. So first thing, with this chart, you can scroll your mouse in and out. So that's all I'm doing is using my mouse scroll, and it's getting smaller and bigger. Some people who have a laptop with just the square little touchpad, it's hard to scroll it in and out with that. So it's better if you have a mouse that has a roller like mine here. I can also grab this space on the chart anywhere, and you'll see where I'm holding it with the mouse and arrow is illuminated, and I'm just pulling it around this way. So if your chart is long and wide past your view screen, I have a pretty big monitor so I can see my whole chart, but if you do not, then you can pull it to the left or right. It'll always adjust back a little bit, but if you're pulling this way, then it's going to show you this tree. You're pulling this way, then it will always show the end of this side. Up and down, same thing. If I pull up or down, it's going to adjust down to the maximum space below. So I'm just dragging it in and out or around. If your chart is wider than the screen on your computer, then this little scroll bar will activate. You don't see it here on mine because my chart isn't that long, but if yours is, then you can scroll up and down on the scroll bar as well. This magnifying glass right here allows you to search positions on the chart. So if you just type in a partial or full name, it shows you the positions that have that in the title, and then it'll like illuminate that position on the chart. So this is only useful if you have a company that's got, 50, 100 positions on the chart, which most of our TouchStone users aren't businesses of that size. But if you do have a large organization and your chart's really big and you want to search for a position, then that's what this icon right here, or this feature, is for. These buttons that are right here and at the bottom or the middle bottom of every box, this is expand collapse. So if I click this and this one and this one, you can see that all you see is this managerial row now. You can collapse the chart all the way down to, oops, sorry, I just clicked that box instead of moving it. When you refresh or hit another page, it's going to come back to the expanded view. So you can collapse positions like this. If you want to just see the managerial row, you can collapse it all the way up to one position. I think probably the only reason that you would do this is if you want to focus in on one department or area. So I could close out these departments and then just see this one. This might also be useful for printing. So if you want to print your chart and it's large, but you only want to print one department, you could collapse it to view it that way. So that's what these little pluses and minuses are about. You can move boxes around the chart just by drag and drop. So I just put my cursor over the box and I'm holding my mouse click down, and you can see I'm moving this box around here. And then I just put it not on top of, but inside of the box I want to move it under. And then you can see that position flops over here. If you move a whole, tree, like if I was to move this position, it's going to move the whole tree. So I can grab this, and then if I put it under here, you see that whole tree moves. So when you take a managerial position, then it's going to take everything underneath it. So now I'm just going to drag it back to this position, and then it flops back here. So you can move positions around just by drag and drop pretty easily. The rest of the functionality regarding the use of the org chart is accessed or controlled right here with these three little dots. So if I click the three little dots inside of any position here, this allows me to edit the title of this position. So advertising assistant, because that's the one I clicked the little three dots on. I can add a new position underneath this one, or I can delete this position. So you hit these three little dots, and then all that functionality appears. If I click edit, it's going to open up the title right here. So I could edit the title, and I could also put in the objective of the position, which is the purpose, the reason it's there. If I hit these three little dots and then choose add, then it's going to add a box right underneath here. When you add a box, it'll always be untitled to start with. And then you can click the three little dots inside of the new box and choose edit. And then here's where you'd put in the name of the position. And then save it, which I didn't do. We'll try that again. So here's where you put in the name of the new position. Then you hit save, not cancel. And then that title saves. Right here. You can also delete a box. Just hit remove, and then that box will be gone. Remember, if you remove boxes from your organization chart, then it's going to actually delete that box, which could hold the job description for that position if you've built it. So when you select a box like this one here, this is the job description for the sales assistant. These processes here have been linked to this position from the 4 key functions. So the 4 key functions is this master list of all the processes. And then if you've built job descriptions, or when you do, you simply link these processes from here to here using this toolbar item right here. So if you have done that, if you've built a job description, and then you go to that position right here and you hit remove, it's going to delete that box and the job description. Now, those processes on that job description aren't gone because they're still on the 4 key functions list. It's just that particular job description that you link them to, that position is gone. So think about it before you remove a position. Make sure that that's something that you're doing intentionally. Only admin users and create users can add or edit or change the organization chart. So an admin user is somebody who has rights for everything in TouchStone. A create user is somebody who can create processes, documentation of a process, and positions underneath themselves on the org chart. So when a create user goes to the org chart, they're going to see the positions that they have, that they're accountable for illuminated, and then they'll be able to only edit and change things on that particular job description. A little bit further in the training series, we're going to have a whole session on user rights and what all that means. But just so you know now, only an administrator is going to be able to go in and do things that we're doing right now to the organization chart. Okay, so that's basically the functionality. You can drag and drop to move boxes around. You add positions by clicking those 3 boxes. If you select a position like I just did, you can also edit the title here. So right here, I clicked that customer service position, and if I hit this little edit pencil, this is going to open for me to edit. So you can do it by selecting the three little dots and going there, or you could click the position and edit it right here. Right underneath this position title, this is the objective field. So this can be edited here, or it can be edited like we saw it through the organization chart. These are typically sentences or phrases kind of describing the purpose of the position. It's usually not paragraphs of information, it's something clear and concise. This is also a great statement for recruiting for a position, so you could put this in a recruitment ad. It also really helps the employee to zero in on what their main purpose is. So I'm going to go back here to the organization chart. So let's talk about just some of the fundamentals of good organization strategy. If you've already built your organization chart, then what I'm about to say might help you to refine it a little bit or maybe rethink it. If you haven't built your organization chart yet, then these are things to be considering while you build it. So the first thing in good organization strategy is having clear departments. So here you can see we have a sales and marketing department, or you could also consider this the getting the business department, so which is responsible for implementing all of the sales, advertising, marketing processes, getting the business in the door. Center here is operations. This is client fulfillment. This is everything that happens after a sale has been made. So they're the fulfillment department, service delivery, operations, production. Depending on your industry, you call it something different. This is the doing the business. If you're thinking about the four key functions again, doing the business is here. And then we have admin, finance, human resources. This is like the office processes. These are also considered the support processes. So everything that these people do here supports the rest of the company. So this is running the business. So think of clear, distinct departments. Sometimes when smaller businesses are starting to grow, you just start hiring people, and before you know it, you have this kind of mishmash of people, and you're not really quite clear, who's doing what sometimes. Okay. So have departments. Also think of your managerial row. So your managerial presence. This is the manager line right here. So usually there's board of directors or owners. Then you've got president below that, or general manager. Then you've got the manager row of every department. So typically speaking, there's going to be at least one managerial level in an organization strategy, even if you're a small business, very small. So these positions here represent the managers of each key department. Then sometimes, depending on the size of the business, you may have a managerial row here as well. So like this situation where this is the senior person, and then these are the subordinate positions underneath that. Another thing to remember just about the TouchStone organization chart is that if you have multiple positions or multiple people that do the same position or fill the same position, I didn't say that quite clear enough, but let me do it this way. So let's imagine we have 5 customer support people. So there's 5 people who fill this role. The business is large enough that you need to have 5 of those positions. You only need one box on the organization chart that says customer service. You don't want to have 5 positions, each saying customer service. And the reason is that it just becomes redundant. So if I click on this position here, then we're going to see the job description for the customer service person. If these 5 people all do the same thing, they're all customer service, there's no reason to have 5 positions. Inside of TouchStone in account administration, you assign a person to this role. So you would assign 5 people to this role. Then when they log into TouchStone, they're going to see these processes. So there's no reason to have 5 boxes on the org chart. This also is one of the reasons why I wouldn't suggest putting people's names in the boxes. So you can see in my chart, I don't have anybody's names in boxes. And it's because when you assign somebody to this position in account administration, TouchStone knows that that person, that user has been assigned, and it will show it on the dashboard. So I'm going to go here to the dashboard just to make this point. So this is an example here where I've been assigned this position, the manager of admin finance. Since we're logged in as me, then this position automatically appears. So I know this is the position I fill. And then below here in management review, because these two people have been given a username and password to TouchStone and have been assigned the customer service role, TouchStone knows these two people fill this role. So the hierarchy is always going to be, and the people who fill those boxes will always be seen here in management review if you're managerial position. Another reason to not put names in boxes is because the boxes get cut off. So I think somebody's asking this question. Yeah, so I think this is her question. What she's saying is that the names or the position title is long, and so it gets cut off, which is true. So I'll show you an example. Like, it can't be like longer than this right here. So if I went into this position and I started putting people's names like Tom, Mary, so I'm making this title really long, and then I'm going to save it. And then if I go back to the org chart here, it's cut off. You don't see it. You do see it if you click the position and you go to the job description. So this is all here, but on the face of the chart, you don't see it. So this is just one of the limitations of the current chart. This chart is relatively new, the interface for it, and in some upcoming releases that we're going to have, you'll see improvements and changes to the org chart. I even heard the team talking about like the ability to put somebody's picture in the box here. Part of the issue has to do with how large boxes become and how hard it is for people to see those on desktops and even on, your cell phones. So if you, when we start expanding the surface area of these boxes to get wider, if you have a bigger chart, it's just going to be much wider and bigger. Having said that, I think that the real estate here will at least get a little bit bigger, so you could put in more text, and maybe we'll even have the ability to shrink the size of the font. Birgit, I think that is your question. So I'm going to read your question more thoroughly, and then I may call you or email you if I can't answer it within this session time. So someone's asking about printing the chart, which I appreciate you bringing that up because I think I forgot to show you. So the best way to print the chart is to use a snipping tool. So I use this one's just called Capture. This used to be called Jing, which was one of my favorite snipping tools, but they discontinued it for some reason, and now it's replaced with this called Capture. You can also just use your snipping tool inside of your Windows operating system. So here this is just, I just closed it. Yeah, there it is. So this is the crosshairs of the Capture tool. And then I can just take this, getting stuck for some reason, and then so that's the picture view. So all I did was drag the crosshairs and then released it. And then from here, I could even expand it bigger or wider, just getting a little bigger here. And then you can pull in the sides this way or that way. And then you just hit this little picture, and then it's going to give you the picture of the org chart. So this Capture one's acting a little wonky for some reason. This is just the regular snipping tool inside of my Windows operating system. And I think Macs have the same thing. It's going to pop up here. So this is the snipping tool that most of us have if you have a Windows PC, and then you just hit new, and then you just start with this view corner, and then, stretch it out, take a picture of the chart like that, let go. And then you can, once it's in this screen view, you can save it and print it, but the same problem still exists. You have to print it on landscape paper if your chart is wide. So there are limitations to printing the organization chart just because of printing screens just can be a little difficult. So that's, sorry, my computer's going really slow for some reason. I live in Northern California, and somebody's asking how I'm doing because they know where I live. And we're about an hour north of San Francisco, right in the middle of all the fires. So it's like I have fires on each side of me. So I think the internet's a little slow, which is probably understandable. Okay, so that's printing the chart. You could also shrink it down like this and then go to the snipping tool and take a picture of it. But then again, you get so small, like nobody can really see that now. So the best solution is use the snipping tool, take a screenshot of it, and then you can print it. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit more or get back into the conversation of organization strategy. So first thing to consider is departments. Now let's go through and talk about each department, and I'll give you some ideas for positions that I think are useful inside of each of these functional department areas. When you're building your organization chart, think into the future. So a good exercise to do if you haven't done this is to go to the 4 key functions and download the process and guiding the business called strategic target or strategic planning. And then inside of that process, there are tools that will help you to build a vision. If you're a manager, you can still do this. So I'm a manager here at Business Design Corp, and I have a strategic target for my department. Like I plan out every year what I want to try to accomplish within the department for that year. Even if there's 2 positions in a department, it's still a good technique, a managerial tool to think about what is your vision for this department? What are you attempting to do? So once you've got if you're the business owner, you've got a strategy for the next 2 years, say, then you want to come to your organization chart and say, okay, what does this company, what is it going to look like when we've reached our strategic target? So think 2 years in the future, think of all the plans that you have, including sales growth, branching off into different products or services, increasing your leads, adding more customer service processes. So think about all those goals and then turn yourself to the organization chart here and decide what does the structure of that company in the future need to be. A lot of small businesses grow just out of control, like a fire. You just start growing through word of mouth and referral. You get lucky, you stumble on some good sales techniques maybe, you do a really good job, and then more people start calling. Then you say, oh, I need help. Then you start to hire, and you hire someone to do sales maybe here, but then they get really good at customer service, and they also help in the warehouse. And then suddenly you've got this people with accountabilities all over within every department. It's not really clear who's doing what or what you're supposed to be doing or who your manager even is. And then it just continues like that. So the organization strategy can help you make some sense out of a chaotic situation if that's what's happening for you. You can lay an organization structure over what might be a kind of chaotic, people-dependent situation and put some structure around it. So just starting here from left to right, let's talk about the sales and marketing department. There are 2 main things that happen within a department like this. There's the generation of leads, and then there's the conversion of those leads. If you think about your goal for the future, you want to just consider where you are now and then where you want to be in 2 years, and then figure out or guesstimate how many leads, what more advertising methods or channels you need to use, how many more leads do you need to generate, and at what rate will they convert in order for you to grow to the sales goals that you have. Now, sales and advertising is a science. It's artful in a way, but it's also a science. And what I mean by that is there are indicators. You can quantify it. You can measure it. You should know if you spend X number of dollars generating leads and then you convert those at a certain rate, then you will create X number of sales, which is a very powerful thing to know. The key to all that is having processes. So in order to quantify lead generation and lead conversion, you have to have a reliable process that you can depend on. So I need to know my advertising processes work. And they don't have to be perfect every time, but I know that they work. And then I know my conversion processes work. So with that in mind, you start to plan out the positions you need. So if you need to increase advertising by 50%, then you're going to need an advertising position and maybe even an assistant. If you have 10,000 leads coming in a month, you know you're going to need salespeople over here to convert those leads. If you think about the implementation of the new advertising that you'll need some kind of a marketing coordinator to develop and coordinate that. And then the manager is essential because the manager is the one who is constructing the processes, quantifying them, holding people accountable, building the processes, managing the results. So think about what your version of all this looks like, what is necessary for the future, and then plan for that. You'll notice in my chart that I've got these little assistant positions here, apprentice, lead, senior, associate, lead. This is a good way to plan out growth. It's a technique for scaling. It's also a technique for efficiency. So you bring a sales assistant in, they learn certain processes, they're paid a little less here, they're trained, and then they move up to salesperson. When they're salesperson, they're converting at your expected conversion rate. Down here, they're messing around, they're learning, they're trying. They may not make it, they may do really well. You're paying them less for all of that. When they can convert at 70% or whatever your goal is, then you move them up here. Here in an operations department, this is the apprentice who I hire with a very minimum qualifications, and then I train them in these processes, and then they move here, and then I train them in these processes, and then they move here. So this is called training and growing your own talent from within, and it's a really powerful organizational strategy principle because it gives you control. It allows you to see how an employee is performing and then decide if they're going to be valuable enough to move up into a key role up here. So think about your sales and marketing department. What does it need to look like? Think about it in the future. That may be what that causes is for you to build future positions. So what I mean by that is the owner up here might be this position right now, might even be a salesperson. Hopefully not, but maybe. The owner up here might be the operations manager and the sales manager. So somebody could be filling multiple boxes on the organization chart, and that's how you kind of plan for the future while still having to live in the current reality. So when all the sales and marketing stuff is happening effectively, leads are being generated, sales are being made, then all of that gets plumped onto this department right here to fulfill it. So think about this department in the future as well. If you're going to double the size of your company in 2 years and all these new sales are coming in here, well, then this department needs to be ready to fulfill those orders, to produce that, to deliver that service. So it's coming up with capacity here. This is another principle of scaling. So if I'm going to double my sales, then I need to be able to produce twice as much within this department. planning this out and trying to think it through is way better than just, oh, look, all these sales are coming, let's hire people quick, and then train them up as quick as possible. If you do it that way, you're gonna suffer with inefficiency. And what it looks like in a production department is these people here, like let's say the senior tech, they're having to build things or deliver services at a certain rate, including materials. So in a service delivery business, materials may take on a different shape, but in a production or operations business, it could be physical materials. If this is a restaurant, it's food. So it's the products as well as the service that you're paying for. So if these people over here are selling a service for a certain amount, and then these people are delivering that service, but because they're untrained, because they're wasting materials, what these people have sold it for is not what they deliver it for, and that's called losing money. So, and it becomes even more complicated because if it's a cost of goods sold, as you all are aware, the price could go up to whatever you want it to be, but if the cost of that is going to stay the same. So think about that whole mix between being able to sell something and delivering it in a profitable way, and then plan out your operations or your service department accordingly. This technique here is a really good one for what I'm describing, because rather than hiring people and expecting them to be a senior tech right away, where they're delivering a gross profit margin, at 25%, which is what we need in order to be profitable, you can't expect that. You can't expect to go out and find someone who's fully trained. You're going to plug them into this box and they're going to be delivering your products or services right on point. It's just not reasonable. Sometimes you get lucky, which is further perpetuates this fallacy that you can just go out and find that person. Your manager up here or yourself are saying things like, I can't find good people. Nobody cares. Nobody does it the way that I do. Nobody does it the way that Bob does it. There's no good people anymore. The millennials are just, they're lazy. So all of these excuses are just that. They're excuses. And the reason you have to make those excuses is because you're not training your own talent from within. You're not bringing people in here, teaching them the basics, then moving them here, and then moving them up here. And up here is where they're expected to produce that product or service at a profitable rate. So think about these levels and what your version of that is. This also is like a training program if you think about it. And isn't that a great thing to have? It's all dependent upon processes, though. You have to have the processes for what the senior technician does. You have to have the processes for what the lead tech does and the processes for what the tech does. And this person needs to design and build and manage all those processes. So once you've thought through your production or your service delivery, then you come to the last department, which is the office. So this is bookkeeping, it's financial record keeping, it's greeting customers, it's recruiting and hiring, and all of the policy side of HR and employee management. It's your computer systems and processes. If you outsource your IT or you have someone does it within this department, these are the support positions, also known as the overhead. So there's a good amount of overhead to have. Overhead is also, these positions here, the managers. So there's a good amount of overhead to have where those people are providing those support services effectively. And then there's obviously too much, and then there's not enough. So this is where organization strategy helps you again. Think through what are the support positions that are necessary to support the rest of the company over here. What do you need? And if you look at your financial plan or your vision and you have X number of sales and then you have your cost of production right here, and then your fixed expenses. In order to get a decent net profit, what money do you have left over for support services? I see more often than not that this department gets minimized. It's like, well, we don't need that. We can live without that. And then what that causes is lack of efficiency and productivity and ability, really, of these two income-producing departments. So a few examples of that might be if you want your sales manager here to be giving you reports on what it costs to generate leads and what the conversion rate is, and you want your production department here to be telling you how efficient is the apprentice tech that you just hired, and then when will that person be ready to come up here, and are these senior techs delivering at a profitable rate individually? Are they productive? Do we have too much in the warehouse because we have a lot of products that have been sitting on the shelf for a long time? All that information is done through financial record keeping. So it's your QuickBooks, or it's your inventory control system, it's your CRM, all computer processes. This is vital to the efficient running of these two departments. It's integral to that. You can't expect the sales manager to just figure it out, or you can't expect the warehouse lead to be able to figure out the inventory control. It needs to come from the support department. So these other departments are severely handicapped if there isn't efficient productivity or ability here within your office department. Another example is like simple HR. So employees who need to be fired for cause, or more importantly, getting prime candidates for these departments through good recruiting and hiring. It could be as simple as filing, answering the phone, routing calls, messages that this person does. If these people are having to worry about all of that, then that's how inefficient or by depriving them of those resources, you're compromising your lead generation and sales, getting new business, and you're compromising the delivery of your business. So this, again, is the support department. So let's talk a little bit more about how to marry your future vision with the present. So let's imagine that this is your business, what we're looking at now, 2 years out into the future, and you've let go or put down people's names and personalities and who you have working for you now, and just re-envision this anew. So erase all those people from your mind right now. They're important and they exist, but for this exercise, this entrepreneurial or managerial exercise, just erase them for a minute and think, what is the best structure and what are the best positions? Once you've done that, you've got this clean, clear view of it, then think about those people and start plugging their names into boxes. So who's doing what now? So you may have a person that you've hired who has their name in 5 different boxes. Well, that's fine, because that's the way it is right now. So think about who's doing what and start plugging their names into boxes. Some of these positions in your future chart will be future positions, and maybe in the current situation, there's not a whole lot of that work. So like customer support, for example, or human resources. So it's totally fine that the manager up here is doing human resources, bookkeeping, and customer service for now. But in the future, these are going to be 3 separate positions. And that manager up here should start working on the processes for each of these positions. And then when they're ready to hire, they've got all of that training dialed in. That's best case scenario. But by putting their names in the boxes for now, then you're breaking it up for them and showing the path for growth. Another thing to look for is when you've got a person whose accountabilities span the organization chart. So this happens all the time. You have a need in one department, like customer service. You hire a person. That person does that job really well. And so you're like, wow, let's also have them do the marketing because they've got some experience in marketing. So suddenly now they're doing some marketing work. And then we really needed someone to put in those recruiting ads. And so they're doing a little bit of HR here. And then this person is so wonderful and talented and can do everything. So let's make them the manager because they're really great at all of that. And now they can be the manager because they know how to do it all. So that type of person, every business has them. They're invaluable. They're wonderful people, but they're living a nightmare. It's overwhelming. It's stressful. Nothing's ever done. They're pulled in 50 million different directions. Now they're the manager and they're failing at that because they're so consumed by the technical responsibilities of all this other stuff that they have to do. It's not multitasking. It's being constantly interrupted. It's completely inefficient, and it's really stressful. And that person is stressed out, and you all know it. So an answer to that is start to plan your way out of it. Start to plan the way out of it for that person. If you've hired someone into a managerial position like this or this or this, and they're beyond their capabilities, when you do your organization chart, pull them back into a position below. Just say, we just did this too quickly. I know you're overwhelmed. Let's work on the managerial processes so we all learn how to manage well, and then let's reconsider moving you back into the managerial position. So if you've promoted someone beyond their capabilities and they're failing, then there's nothing wrong with saying, let's shift it back down again. This commonly happens when this person right here is like, oh, I need some managers. I'm going to promote this guy here. Now he's the manager. And you're kind of advocating your accountability because you haven't really trained that person to be a good manager. Another technique you can look for or use is if you do have the ability of pulling someone who's spanning the organization chart back into one department, then definitely do that. So if you have that scenario where someone's this position, they're this position, they're this position, they're here when they have to be, that is inefficient because it lacks uniformity. So that work is lacking uniformity. When a salesperson, we all know salespeople, they've got a certain personality for that. Like they're a certain type of person. That type of personality often doesn't do well with HR work or answering the phone. This personality here of people who gravitate towards service delivery, that's way different than what a salesperson would be. So there's that issue with it, let alone the difficulty in switching results and switching objectives, because people don't do very well with that. So here my objective is to sell, sell, sell. Here it's to make the customer happy. Here it's to support the rest of the company. It's just hard to flip-flop like that. You've got to have multiple hats on all the time. So if you do have the ability to pull someone out of accountabilities over here and just put them here, then definitely do that when you're looking at, what might be a reorganization for you. There are a couple tools that can help that are in the library that can help with your organization strategy. One is the strategic target or the vision that I talked about. So I'm going to just show you where that is. If you go to guiding the business here, right here in the library, you go to general process library, you'll see, and it's already in my account, so you'll notice it's grayed out. It's in the S section, so strategic planning right here. There's actually two processes, and you could look at both of them and decide which one you like. The strategic planning, to build a strategic plan, it's not a business plan. It shouldn't take you 20 hours. It's one page where you just create your plan for the company. It can have the growth objectives, key things that you want to accomplish. Again, if you're a manager, you can think about your department. What do I want to accomplish? Write all that out in a strategic plan. So that's a great tool to have, and it will really help you with the planning out of your organization chart. The next tool is a financial plan or a budget. So if somebody came to me and said, what are the 3 most important strategic tools any business can have? I would say a strategic plan, an organizational strategy, and a financial plan. Those three things can help guide a business. It can help you scale. It can help you grow profitably. So there's much more to it than that, but those three tools are really essential. If I go here to the 4 functions, I go to running the business. This is where the budgeting process is. This is not rocket science here. Like, you can find this on the internet, but we happen to have a pretty good one here. You can pull from the library instead of running the business. It's got some other stuff in here, like work plans on how to create a budget, how to monitor and report. And then it's got this template. I'm just going to hit view file here and it'll show us the template. Again, you can download this from the internet, or you can download one from your accounting system if you have that ability. So this isn't some big, long operating budget that's hugely complicated. This is just a budget for your financial plan and your organization strategy. So here, the revenue numbers, you can do the total for each year. I like it by quarters just because it's easier to plan that way. Again, it's not meant to be a really detailed operating budget. It's just a rough financial plan. So if you're planning 2 years out, you could do 4 quarters of each year, totaling and then you'll be at this revenue number here at the end of the 2 years. So plan out revenue, then go down and start looking at your variable costs. So roughly labor, materials, commissions, whatever your version of this is based on your industry. This is that cost of goods sold number that we were talking about earlier. Then you have your total variable costs, and then start thinking of your fixed costs. So how this works with the organization chart is, I'm just going to flip back to the org chart. So here with your organization chart, you can look at the future positions, and then you can plug those salaries into here if they're a fixed salary, or into here if it's a variable cost, and then start seeing what it looks like. If I put a salary to every single one of these positions here, or an hourly rate, and then I'm at the end of my 2-year goal here, say, and I plug in all those salaries and expenses, that has to work. That sales number up here needs to be able to cover all of those expenses. And then down here, I need to have a net profit, because that's what's important at the end of the day. That's what pays these people up here, the shareholders. So this isn't perfect. Like, some of it's going to be guesstimating for you. Some of it's going to be thinking and planning out, and it may not exactly work out that way. But this kind of strategic planning, guesstimating, planning is way better than not doing any of that and just hiring. So think about your strategic target, your vision, your org chart in TouchStone, and then your financial plan, which in a way tests the viability of all this by putting numbers to it. All right. So I have a few questions that I'm going to hold and answer individually for people, because I think well, let me answer this one. So someone's asking about, I think what he's saying is he heard in one of our videos about a compensation plan. So I'm going to just search for it here, because I know it's in my account somewhere. So there's a library process called compensation planning. My TouchStone's going to start to get, it's just because of my internet connection. I think our county is falling apart, so the internet's a little slow. So I might not be able to search for it, but there's a process, and I believe it's in running the business, and it's called, here it goes, it's called compensation planning. So we'll be able to tell where it is right here. So here's the process compensation plan. And I'm looking at the trail right here. It looks like it's in running the business. So if you go to the running the business library, then you'll be able to find it there. So what this compensation plan is it allows you to plan out the cost of your employees. So there's a spreadsheet in it that where you can plug in the salaries, and it kind of shows you a span of the beginning and the ending salary for each position. It also has some links. I think I have it here somewhere too. It also has some links to websites where you can go and look for like expected salaries in your area. And then that'll give you some ideas on what the cost of an employee would be. So this is all for like future planning, where you could plan out, the different positions here on your organization chart. So whoever asked that question, if you want more information on that, just send me another quick message and I can walk through it with you individually. But any of you who are curious about it now, it's called compensation planning. You can download it from the library. So I want to just end here with an idea on how to show your employees your organization strategy and your plan. So it's always great for employees to see that their manager or the owner of the company has a plan for the future. If you give employees access to TouchStone, they're going to be able to go here and see the organization chart, but sometimes it needs some explanation. So what I saw in a client's account the other day that I thought it was a really good idea, I'm just going to show you this real quick. So go to your 4 key functions, probably guiding the business, create a process. So I'm going to go processes, create, and call it org strategy. And you can modify this title any way that you want, but something like that: organization strategy, org strategy, explained. I think that's what they called it, org strategy explained. So I'm going to probably keep this in the strategy subfunction because it's a strategic thing. And then go to that process. So here it is right here. And then in the process, we're going to have a document, which is the org strategy. So you're just going to have a picture of this. Again, they can go into TouchStone and find it, and I can't spell today, but I'm going to create a document and then put it here. So I would go back to the organization chart, and then using, just like I showed you before, using my snipping tool right here, new, I'm going to take a picture of this. I cut it off a little bit, but that's fine. And then I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to save this picture. And when I'm taking pictures, I usually just plop them on my desktop because that makes it easier for me to find them later. Then I'm going to go back to this process here. And then inside of that document tool, if my internet holds out, I'm just going to put this picture of the organization chart. So I click open this document, and then I'm going to hit this little image uploader, choose file. In a new release of TouchStone that's going to be coming in the fall, we're going to have drag and drop images, which is really going to be cool. So there's that image now. So here's the organization chart picture. Then they did a little video of it. So here's what makes it cool. They went to the organization chart. I don't know what software they use, but I use this tool called Loom. And you can download this for free on the internet. This is a little Google plugin or Chrome plugin for Loom. It's Loom. And then I just hit start recording. It's giving me a countdown. So I'm the owner or the manager of the company. I'm like, this is our organization strategy. In the year 2022, we're going to grow to 10 million in sales. This is my plan to do it. Sales and marketing is going to have this and that change. So the owner or the manager is talking about it. So I'm talking into my computer right now. It's recording my voice. It records my screen movements. I might say, okay, let's just talk about the sales and marketing department right now. This is what happens. This is the person who fills that role now. Now in operations, we're going to start to implement a training program where there's apprentice here and this. So you get the idea. The owner is talking about it, flipping the screen around, clicking positions. Then when you're done, you'd say, I'm really excited about the next 2 years and all the opportunities for employees. So we're done with it. We hit finish. So now Loom is just creating a download of this video that I just created. Really easy. It's not a Hollywood production. Just make it easy. I think people get stuck on creating videos sometimes because you just think it has to be perfect, but it doesn't. So now I'm just downloading this video. I just hit this little download button. I'm just going to close that. Now I go back to TouchStone, and I'm going to go back to my process here, and then I go here to the video tool, and I could call this, org strategy video. And of course, I spelled that wrong. Then I just hit choose file, and now I'm going to my downloads because that's where that video is. And it'll appear here. That's documents. There it is. So there's the video. Click it. TouchStone's loading it. It was pretty quick. It's going to load fast. And then I just hit save. And now there's the video. So I could hit play and it plays. So then I'd probably go back to the title of the process and I'd probably make this public right here. So now if we go to the organization chart, the dashboard, you'll see the, I completed it instead of made it public. The public folder is right here. I'm just going to hit the back button and see if I can go back. Instead of hitting that public button, I hit the completed, which turned the title black, which is fine. So then we go back here to the dashboard, and then the video's here. So this is just a technique that helps you to communicate your organization chart. Once that video's up on, that process is up on the dashboard, then you could send an email out to your employees and say, hey, go watch the new org chart video, org strategy video. And then more importantly, if you have a new employee, it could become part of your onboarding where you're saying, this is our vision or strategy for the year. Go click here and watch the video. So I wanted to show you all that just first of all to say how easy it is to create videos. And videos are great for your documentation. Someone's asking the name of the video tool. Again, it's Loom, L-O-O-M. And this right here, I'll just click on it again so you can see it. This Loom is a Google Chrome plugin. So once you download it, and this is free, then it shows up in your little plugins right here. And if knowing that it's this easy, every time you document a process, if it lends itself to a visual representation at all, then do a little video like that. You saw how quick and easy it is. You can even follow the work plan and say, task 1, do this, task 2, do this. It just enhances the training by having a visual. So for those of you who I didn't answer your questions, I'm going to get back to you today. And next week, just a preview of next week, we're going to be talking about job descriptions. In my not-so-humble opinion, job descriptions, like the ones in TouchStone, are the best management tool that any manager could ever have. Absolutely, bar none, the best management tool. So next week, I'm going to teach you how to build the organization, build the job descriptions, how they come together, all the functionality. But then I'm going to elaborate on how to use these as a management tool. They're everything for a manager. So if you're the owner and you've got managers that you want to be encouraging them to use TouchStone or getting them to use TouchStone, have them come to next week's session. Because it's really eye-opening if you haven't managed this way before, to learn how to manage with processes and with job descriptions like we have in TouchStone. Thanks for coming, everybody. Bye-bye.